All right, so get ready for a deep dive, everybody, because today we're tackling what feels like a real head-scratcher.
Mm-hmm.
How is it that sometimes a winning formula just does not translate to a sequel?
Yeah.
Specifically, we are dissecting
Mm-hmm.
the box office disappointment
Yeah.
that is Joker, folie à deux, especially compared to its predecessor. We've got articles here breaking down the less than stellar reviews and the fan reactions, which are, well...
Oh, there's something else.
And you know what? It's particularly interesting to unpack this one because the original Joker wasn't just a hit, it was a phenomenon.
Exactly. So for those who might not have caught it, what were those key elements that resonated so strongly with audiences?
Well, I mean, you can't discuss Joker without talking about Joaquin Phoenix's performance.
Yeah.
He completely inhabited that character, just raw, unsettling intensity. And the film itself, it wasn't afraid to go to some really dark places, you know, exploring mental health, social isolation, kind of the consequences of ignoring those issues. I feel like it sparked a lot of conversation, actually. It really did. So with all that buzz, the sequel had some pretty big shoes to fill.
For sure.
So what does the source material say went wrong?
Well, to put it bluntly, it seems like Joker, folie à deux, alienated a big chunk of the audience who loved that first film.
Okay.
Received a D cinema score.
Ooh, that's gotta sting.
Which is almost unheard of for a comic book movie of this scale.
Lower than Morbius levels of sting, apparently.
Yes. And it's interesting, right? Because they both faced criticism, but for very different reasons.
Ooh.
With Joker, folie à deux, it seems like this tonal shift to a musical format with Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn is a major factor in the negative audience response.
Interesting.
Yeah, and, while some viewers love that artistic gamble, others felt like it completely clashed with the tone of the original, like that gritty realism. It subverted those expectations, but not in a good way, not in a way that worked for them.
Right. It's like going into a restaurant, expecting a juicy burger and getting a plate of escargot. It might be delicious, but it's not what you came for.
Exactly.
And the fan reactions on X are exactly what you'd expect with a choice this divisive.
Yeah.
Everything from masterpiece to total disaster.
Exactly. And it really highlights the challenge of sequels, especially when you're dealing with a film like Joker that had such a specific, powerful impact. How do you recapture that magic while also doing something new?
It's a tough line to walk.
It is.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
This whole Joker situation definitely has me thinking about the role of expectation versus innovation in entertainment.
Yeah.
Speaking of expectation versus innovation,
Yeah.
that idea of expectation versus innovation has me thinking about another source we have today.
Yeah.
One that tackles a different kind of pop culture challenge.
Yeah. Okay.
How do these shows from the past hold up in the present?
Right.
We are diving into the 30th anniversary of Friends.
Wow.
A show that practically everyone has seen or at least knows about.
Right.
And the conversation around its legacy in 2024.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like you said, Friends is a show that it holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts.
Totally.
But the articles you shared point out that nostalgia only goes so far when you're looking at it through a modern lens.
Exactly. And one of the biggest things, that's tough to ignore with Friends is the lack of diversity.
Yeah, it's glaringly obvious, isn't it? Especially for a show that's set in New York City,
Right.
One of the most diverse places, arguably, on the planet.
Absolutely.
And it's not even just about, ticking boxes for representation or anything.
Yeah.
Right? This lack of diversity really feeds into a much larger conversation about inclusion in the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
Which was arguably even more pervasive back then than it is today.
For sure. And it's not like viewers haven't noticed because our source material mentions how people watching, even today, are calling it outdated, problematic.
Right. And it's not just viewers. Right. Because we have here statements from people who were actually involved with the show.
Oh, wow.
Adam Goldberg, who played Eddie, called the lack of diversity insane.
Wow.
And even more tellingly, I think, is Marta Kaufman, one of the creators of the show.
Right.
She's publicly expressed regret, even going so far as to donate millions of dollars to
Really?
African and African-American studies at her alma mater.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it's one thing for us to look back, decades later and kind of critique it, but
Totally.
for the creators themselves to be acknowledging that
Right.
it really speaks volumes.
It does. But this is where it gets a little more complicated.
Okay.
Because they did have Aisha Tyler in,
Yeah.
a recurring role.
Yes. Aisha Tyler playing Charlie Wheeler.
Wow.
And her perspective is really fascinating here because
Yeah.
it adds a layer of nuance to this whole conversation.
For sure. So what does the source material say about her experience on the show?
So she was actually a fan of the show before she joined the cast.
Okay.
So she was aware of, the comedic style and the rhythm.
Right.
And she talked about how she was, initially nervous, which I think is understandable.
For sure.
Given, how massive the show was.
Absolutely.
But also how incredibly kind and welcoming the rest of the cast was.
Well, that's good to hear, at least.
Yeah, and she found the writing to be very sharp, the comedic timing very unique, so, highlighting the show's strengths, even while acknowledging its flaws.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's interesting how those conversations about representation, about legacy can get,
Yeah.
so complex.
Complicated, for sure.
But speaking of legacy, let's shift gears a little bit to a source that tackles it from a totally different angle.
Okay.
This one's about the emotional connection between an actor and their fan base.
Yeah.
We are talking about Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, nice.
Horror icon, everyone's favorite final girl, Laurie Strode from the Halloween franchise.
Right.
And it's funny because the articles you shared, they're not even about a new movie.
Right.
Or like some big career milestone or anything.
No.
They're about this really human moment.
Yeah.
That underscores how deeply her portrayal of Laurie Strode has resonated with people.
It's true.
So give me the details. What happened?
So it sounds like Jamie Lee Curtis was recently brought to tears.
Oh.
And not because Michael Myers finally got her. She was reading fan messages. Oh. And the outpouring of emotion, just the sheer depth of feeling in these messages, it really got to her.
That's so touching, I can only imagine how overwhelming that must have been.
Yeah.
So what was it about those messages that resonated so strongly with her?
It seems like the messages went beyond just loving the Halloween movies, though I'm sure there was a lot of that too.
Right.
But fans were writing about how much Laurie Strode's strength, her resilience meant to them, especially fans who'd faced their own challenges and traumas.
Wow.
They saw her as the symbol of survival, a testament to the human capacity to kind of endure and overcome even like the most terrifying experiences.
That's powerful stuff. It really goes to show you how a fictional character in the right hands can become something truly meaningful.
Absolutely. And it highlights something really crucial about the entertainment we consume, right? It's not just about escapism, although obviously that's a big part of it.
Right.
Sometimes it's about finding those characters, those stories that make us feel seen and understood.
Yeah, even in those,
even in those dark moments.
Darker moments. Well, this whole deep dive has been quite a journey, honestly.
Yeah, it has.
From box office flops to
Yeah.
sitcom controversies to, heartfelt fan tributes. It's amazing to see how pop culture can spark some seriously thought-provoking conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you wonder, what will future generations think about the entertainment we consume today? What will stand the test of time? And what will be that ripe for a deep dive a few decades down the line? That's something to ponder, isn't it? Thanks for joining us, everybody, and we'll catch you on the next one.